Hey, good morning, everybody. As you can see, it's not a rerun. It is a snowy day in April here north of Chicago, and I hope you're doing well. If you're in the area, I hope you're warm and dry and your tree survived, and I know I'm looking ready. I'm definitely looking forward to spring. So, if you don't know who I am, hey Amanda, I'm Rita Hickman. I'm a body-mind expert and a Shiatsu massage therapist, and my specialty is helping women who are in narcissistic relationships or toxic relationships, help them heal, get stronger, get into alignment so that they can really, reinvent their life. Hey Peggy. So this whole week we are going to be talking about reinvention after narcissism. I get a lot of women who come into my office and they've had the strength, to move on, to break things off, to find another job. Hey Peggy. They found the strength to do these things, but after being in such a traumatic relationship, hey Sheila, for so long, whether it was their boss or a coworker or their spouse or their parent, hey Mina, whatever it may be, getting through something like that is almost like surviving a shipwreck. My sister and I, we're very, very close anymore because after, the trauma of our childhood, we look at each other as if we're survivors of the Titanic. And there's something really beautiful that can happen from a difficult relationship. And one of the things is what's called trauma bonding. And so you can get really wonderful intimacy with people when you've been through the wars, of life together, whether it's a narcissistic relationship, hey Catherine, or whether it was World War II. Whatever it may be, trauma can really bring together community. There's a lot of wonderful, wonderful benefits that come from the other side of surviving a difficult circumstance. And so if you have survived, this narcissistic, toxic, abusive, exhaustive sort of relationship, if you've made it to the other side, now is time to really reinvent and rebuild. Now, most women, by the time they've gotten out of this relationship or when they're really close to getting out of the relationship, right on the cusp, what happens is that there's a lot of fear about the unknown because maybe you've been living your life the same way for so long and you have no idea if you'll be able to trust anybody else again, if you'll ever be able to have another relationship, or maybe you should, switch sides, maybe you should give up men altogether, or maybe you should just stop working and stay home, because the unknown, the future is very, very fearful. And by the time you're on the other side of this shipwreck, the survivors of the Titanic did not jump up and excitedly, start their new life and say, woohoo, we're so glad we survived. Instead, what happened is there had to be a real time of healing and a time of growth, because basically at the end of a narcissistic relationship, you have to reinvent yourself. You have to become a bigger, more wonderful version of yourself, and that's where you're going. Life has handed you this gift of reinvention. And the cool thing is you get to shape it in whatever direction you want it to go. So even though many women who are at the tail end, maybe they've given up emotionally, maybe the divorce is finalized, maybe they've left the job or switched teams, something like that. You're in a very, the world actually is your oyster. The universe is really ready for you to tell it what you want it to do next. And so one of the very first things you can do is to start to do some research. One of the reasons you ended up in a narcissistic relationship in the first place was because of your patterns that you were taught about what it's like to be a good woman, or what a good relationship looks like, or what people are like, or how to love bigger. Maybe it was a religious background where you give and give and give. Whatever it may be, those belief systems is what got you into, a narcissistic relationship in the first place. The narcissist looked around and said, aha, this is the person. They have the beliefs. They have the ideas that will be a perfect fit for me. So if you want to heal from a narcissistic relationship, if you want to move forward and really become that greatest version of yourself, you have to believe that it's true. You have to believe that it's possible. That's the number one thing. So how do you do that? How do you go from, there's no way this is going to work for me to, you know what, maybe this will. Maybe it's possible. I always start with research. I always start with looking at the people that I admire. Strong women like Maya Angelou or Oprah or Jimmy Carter or people throughout history, who have been in tough situations and had to reinvent themselves and become something completely bigger. Maybe those artists that, did primitives and weren't discovered until, they were in their 60s. That's when they started to paint. Or Morgan Freeman, who didn't get into acting until he was much older. It's important to surround ourselves with role models, with stories, with visions of people who have accomplished what we are looking to accomplish. And when you're fresh out of a narcissistic relationship or just about done, there's this whole wave of possibility that's open to you. And so you sort of pick your North Star, you pick the direction you want to go, and you start finding examples of people who have made it, people who have achieved what you have wanted to achieve. One of my favorites is Eben Pagan. I just watched a workshop he did this weekend on reinventing yourself. He's someone who started out from a poor family of hippies who lived on a farm in Oregon, whose, parents moved from Queens, and so they were totally impoverished, and his dad had anger management issues and, all sorts of things. And time after time, he reinvented himself out of that history into the version of who he is now. So if you want a direction, start looking for role models. Start looking for people you admire. Start diving deeper into their stories, into their biographies. Start finding out more about them and how they handled things and what their perspective was. Because if you can start realizing that we, on some level, are all the same, we have the ability to reinvent ourselves. You have to believe it's possible first. And the only way to start changing those neural connections and to start strengthening your nervous system is to find examples of success. That people who look just like you, who've done things similar to what you've done, or even worse, and they've made it to the other side and created a happy, healthy, functional, wonderful life for them. Maybe they found love again or became an entrepreneur and created their perfect job, the one that fits them like a glove. Hey, Sharon, nice to see you. Maybe they've done all of those things. So start Googling. That's the beautiful thing about the information age we live in. There's so much information out there. And maybe if you're scrolling Facebook, type in or look for role models. Hey, Jody, of people who have achieved and survived and gotten to the other side. When you're scrolling through, read those articles. Read the things that pop up in your Google stuff. Hey, Kellyanne, about those people, about those success stories. Because when you start to read about how other people have achieved something, even if it's fiction books, even if it's stories about strong women or strong girls who have, really pulled themselves out of where they were and created the life that they want. Because what comes in is what shapes you. It's what shapes your thinking. It's what shapes your nervous system. It's what shapes your attitude and the way that you do things. So start following down that rabbit hole and surrounding yourself with positive stories of success, people who've done it. And when you do that, you will start to believe that maybe it's possible for you too. Maybe you too can go through these trials and tribulations that you went through. Maybe you too could be exhausted and worn out and not know where you should go. Maybe you should feel lost. Maybe you should feel trapped. Maybe all those things are true. Look for people who have felt the exact same way and gotten to the other side. Now, support groups are nice. They really are. But one of the challenges I've had with support groups is that they've tended to be people who were at the same level that I was or struggling even more than I was. So it was difficult for me to grow, like a flower or a plant towards the sun, towards the new reality. It's difficult for me to grow in those, support circles like that. Hey, Leslie. Instead, it's important to look for people who have achieved the things that you've wanted to achieve. They've evolved to the level you've wanted to evolve. And start completely infusing yourself with their stories and their magic and their beauty. And when you do that, you will hit a tipping point where you'll start to say, you know what? Maybe I can do this too. And that is absolutely the key to changing your life, is believing that it's possible and then not stopping until you achieve it. Hey, Antonella. So you have to believe it's possible first. And the only way you're going to do it is by absorbing all of the possibilities, all of the stories, all of the, truths that are out there about life, that this can be done, that you can do it. That's step number one. So tomorrow we're going to start talking about the next way to reinvent yourself, which is taking care of the basics, taking care of your foundational pieces so that you're strong enough to reinvent yourself, so that you have the energy and the desire and the movement and the power. Because if you're exhausted and defeated and you feel like a failure and you're empty, then you're going to stay exactly where you are because you just don't have the energy. So tomorrow we're going to talk about how do you get the energy to reinvent yourself after such a difficult situation. But today your homework assignment is to start going down those rabbit holes of women who are role models, dead or alive, fiction or nonfiction, that help you realize that this could be true for you too, that you too can evolve, you too can create the life that you want. Maybe not tomorrow, but you certainly can within the next year or two. It's absolutely possible. Start embracing that growth mindset. And if you feel stuck, reach out. I've got the live streams I do every day. I've got meditations that I've written and created that help you change your thinking. I've got great authors that I've absolutely loved that have moved me in the right direction. Role models that I have, that I've really absorbed their wisdom. So that's what I need you to do today for yourself. Start believing that it's true. And the only way you're going to believe that it's true, that it's possible, is by soaking up new truths, new stories, and new realities. Okay? So if you're still stuck, I do coaching. I do 3-month coaching programs. And we also have the group we just started about healthy strategies to cope with narcissists. Join it. We want to have you there. It's a positive, evolutionary, supportive group that's all about what you want to reach for. Not about how exhausted you are, but where you want to go and who you want to be and what your dreams are and how to get there, how to make it happen, okay? So I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. I'm going to enjoy the snow because it sure is beautiful while we have it. And I will see you tomorrow morning. Talk to you later. Bye.